Jed Drenning, West Virginia Sideline Reporter with us, 365 Sports. And Jed, I know it's September. It's almost too early to ever say any win is a must-win. But with Texas on the road next week, 1-2, how critical, in a way, was the game with Virginia Tech?
Well, we had kind of a crazy start to the season. And, you know, that 0-2 start we didn't feel was representative of who we were as a football team. You know, we lost two close games to two good football teams. Turnovers cost us those games. I mean, we thought we had four turnovers that resulted in 4 touchdowns. And that was the difference between being 2-0 and being 0-2. And we didn't think that was a true indicator of what this team could do. So we cleaned up, took care of business against an FC opponent last week, but we knew that to turn it around on a short week in a rivalry game on the road, taking their best shot under the lights on a Thursday night in Lane Stadium, this was going to be a much more critical test for us. So now we're back to even at 2-2. You're not going to fix that 0-2 start, but what you can do is you can have what I like to call proof of concept. You know, when you win games, Smokey, as you know, it's easier for the kids to buy in even more than they already were with what you're telling them is effective, with what you're telling them is working. And so in so many ways that paid off. But the celebration with the trophy in the locker room was just exceptional. It made up for a lot of ills. It really did. I mean, this was the biggest margin of victory by West Virginia in Blacksburg ever. So this was a big win for us.
How important was it for Neal Brown?
A lot of the things I just said about the team, I could say about Neal. You know, I think that Neal has built a program that is on solid footing. Okay, we kind of had to start from scratch in 2019 because of the exodus after 2018. We lost so much to the NFL. We lost so much productivity from that 18 team. We were really starting from scratch in 19. And so to do so is always going to be a challenge. And then you went right out of that into the COVID year in 20. So in some respects, this is kind of like Neal's second year, not his fourth year. But he's done a tremendous job of establishing a solid culture. We've recruited very well. The atmosphere in the locker room, tremendous. The kids have always been buying in. It's just a matter of making those 1 or 2 plays to finish the game. We got to turn that corner and go from wins like this help you turn that corner in the sense that you go from waiting for something bad to happen when times are tough to when you win a couple of these games, you start waiting on something good to happen. And that's kind of the transition that we're in the midst of. So it was a big win for Neal. It was a big win for the program at large. But good feelings in West Virginia this morning.
I liked how the offense was able to do what they needed to do. Daniels was efficient. The running game was very solid. And then also the special teams. You had a pick 6 on defense. Defensive line was everywhere. Was it like almost across the board everything went pretty well?
Yeah, it did. And you know, the beauty of it, Smokey, is we didn't play a perfect football game. You know, we left a lot on the table. And, you know, we were 4-13 on third downs. You know, we didn't play terribly efficient football in the red zone, which is why we had to settle for those field goals. So anytime that you can play a less than perfect game and go on the road in that environment against a rival and win by 23, you'd much rather have learning opportunities after a game like that than when it costs you and you lose the game. So we can still build, we can still get better, but all 3 phases showed up for sure. I mean, we needed this kind of outing from the defense to get back to what we believe we were all about defensively. I mean, we established a culture, and there's been a standard under Jordan Leslie that defensively there's certain expectations. And that was not apparent through the first couple of games this year. So the last couple of weeks, we've looked more like our old selves. These kids are playing well together, and we won the battle at the point of attack on both sides of the line of scrimmage, offensively, defensively. Special teams, as you talked about, Casey Legg, what a big night for him. He delivered for us. And we had to overcome some great effort by Tech special teams, which anytime you go to Blacksburg,
oh yeah,
way back in the Beamer days, that's what you're expecting, right? I mean, who's known more for their special teams than the Hokies? And they kept penning us in adverse situations from a field position standpoint. We had to overcome those, and we managed to do that. So we collectively just came together, and everything clicked enough in that environment to silence that crowd at critical points and get this thing done and take control of that football game. And then you have a pick six by a true freshman. I mean, these are the types of things you like to see. But when you can hold the Hokies, they've struggled to run the football this year. I think they'll find their way. They're about to have some tough sledding on their schedule, and we're going to send them into it limping when you look at the next 4 games in their schedule. But that's the fewest rushing yards by a Virginia Tech team since 2015. That's kind of their identity. So to take a swipe at their identity like we did, Jordan Jefferson on the defensive line, Dante Stills on the defensive line, they played really solid football, and they're getting back to what they're good at.
So C.J. Donaldson's a pretty interesting story. Another 100-yard night. He was a tight end recruit. Is that correct?
Well, he was a tight end / Swiss Army knife, when we recruited him, Travis Trickett, who's now the offensive coordinator at South Florida, recruited him, and I had these discussions throughout the process with Travis, and everybody was just excited about the potential of just how diverse this kid was, how many different things he could bring to the table. I mean, you're talking about a guy that played wideout in high school, played slot in high school, he had to play in the backfield some in high school, played tight end. You kind of thought he might project as an athletic tight end who could attack the seam and threaten the seam. But there was a point in camp where we were putting them through certain drills, and Neal started to recognize, wow, there might be enough potential as this kid, maybe back here dotting that I or standing next to the quarterback and actually toting the mail. So he had a discussion with Chad Scott, our running backs coach, and he said, yeah, let's give it a try, because our defense was struggling to tackle him. I mean, he's a big physical kid, and nobody wanted a piece of him. And so we gave him a shot, and obviously it's worked out, and it's worked out really well because, we have him, we have Tony Mathis, okay? And Tony Mathis is the veteran in that room as a redshirt sophomore who came on strong late last year, and he's had an exceptional start, Smokey, to the season. And then you got Justin Johnson. His best football game was last night, so it's kind of a three-headed monster. Like last night, CJ got dinged up. He bruised his hand, and that's why he was more limited in the second half. But Justin came right in, and we didn't miss a beat. Tony played well. So, we got options in that room. We got options in the receiver room, and that's the mark of a good football team when you can start leaning on different guys in times of crisis. But CJ's a special talent. There's no doubt about it.
So they get the win, emotional. They've had 2 rivalry games in a month, which is so rare. You might get one in non-conference. There might be one later in the year, but they've gotten 2 with Pittsburgh and now Virginia Tech, which it's a heck of it if you think about just the non-conference schedule. Yeah, Von Tech's down a little bit, but still the emotions of that game. And how critical was it, not just because of what we said to start, how close they were, but they weren't getting it done. Now they have an extra day or 2 before they hit the road to play at Texas.
I think it is critical. It's nice to rest up because, as you touched on, think of how emotionally charged these rivalry games are. And, there's never an easy time to go to Lane Stadium. But this wasn't like some sleepy early noon kickoff at Lane Stadium, right? We were taking their best shot. Primetime, national TV, under the lights. It's legendary and iconic what can happen at Lane Stadium on a Thursday night. The Hokies were 13-5 on Thursday night under the lights. Same thing in Pittsburgh. Prime time, the whole country was watching Thursday night, largest crowd in the history of the city of Pittsburgh to watch a sporting event. So these were rivalry games, but they were rivalry games where we were taking their absolute best shot. And you know what? That makes you better as a football team when you can withstand some of those blows and move forward. We're going to need these couple extra days of rest, and it's going to be fun to sit back and watch the Longhorns head to Lubbock and tangle with the Red Raiders as we get ready to head to DKR ourselves.
Thanks for your time. Enjoy the weekend. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, too.
Jed Drenning, sideline reporter for West Virginia. They beat Virginia Tech handily, 33-10. This is 365 Sports.
All right, thanks to Jed for doing that. He was up in the mountains.